Ethan, you good with the recording?
Yeah, I'm good too.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Commissioner's Corner. We have a special guest today. We have Josh Schwartz, who's the captain of Paw Patrol. Thank you, Josh, for joining us today. How you doing, man?
All is well. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Josh is probably one of the most respected players in the league, even though he's only been here for about a year and a half. But he's quickly joined the ranks and the core, team players in the JP League. For this week's podcast, we're going to change it up a little bit and get a little bit more personal, get to know Josh and a little bit of his background. And yeah, we're gonna start things off with Ethan, our commissioner, to kind of kick off um, the show. So go ahead, Ethan.
Cool. All right, Josh, you ready? I
I'm ready.
cool. Got to get to know my captain a little bit more. So why don't we start here? I'm actually curious. You're obviously a really good player. I really respect your game, and I want to know a little bit more about like how you got into basketball, like originally, like from the beginning. So like you started watching it, you started playing it, your like dad intro you to the sport. Like, tell us the story
Yeah.
there.
No, it's a good question. I was kind of born into sports in general. I have an older brother. My dad is like avid sports guy, so I kind of grew up playing all sports. It's actually funny. I actually focused mostly on football growing up. I played football, basketball, and baseball since I was five, all the way through, through high school and into like college, like rec leagues and whatnot. But the majority of it was football based until obviously post high school, where football post college and kind of on. You can't really play competitive football. There's flag leagues and whatnot. But basketball was kind of like the turning point. I feel like basketball is something that you can continue to play pending no serious injuries for years to come. So like kind of like post high school, I mean, I feel like the main focus has been basketball. I feel like I've gotten better post high school, which is probably not the case for a lot of people. I know a lot of people try to train and focus while they're playing at a competitive level. Luckily, I have leagues like JP and other city leagues that I play in now where continue to kind of build my craft and I love the game. Like I said, I grew up playing it. My dad and my brother and all my friends and family are all big basketball players, so I was always kind of around it. And yeah, I mean, super grateful for the JP League. I think it's a great community. I know you guys use that word a lot on this podcast and throughout the league. It just makes it so much more fun when you're competing against guys that you know. You guys do awesome things on the back end with stats and podcasts and emails and Woj reports. It's just kind of hits on all cylinders and just super happy to be a part of it.
That's such a cool story. Um, there's so much there. I
Yeah,
have like so many follow-up questions, but I also want to bring in Steve. Steve, what you got?
yeah. I mean, what position do you play in football, man?
I was I it kind of changed it up. I grew up when I was like little. I played quarterback. It's funny, everyone in my family is like 6 foot and taller. Like my dad's like 6'1". My brother got a late growth spurt, so he's like 6'2". I never
Yeah.
really got that. So as I got kind of older, I kind of mended to my height and weight and kind of what I was good at. So I played a little bit of tailback and slot receiver offensively, and
Hmm.
safety and cornerback on the defense end. So I know I'm kind of the nice guy in the league, but hopefully we see some spurts of kind of flipping that football switch. But yeah, I loved football, but like I said, it kind of comes to an end once you kind of stop putting on the pads and um, try to translate that skill set into the basketball court.
Yeah, you feel like you played a lot of football growing up. You love the sport. Feel like some of those skill set kind of transitioned over, like all the training you did, all the practices and stuff that help you in your basketball game?
Oh, 100%. I mean, all of like the footwork stuff, like from a technicality perspective, translates 100%. There's different nuances to basketball that, might help you, but and not only from like a technicality perspective, but just kind of like a mindset, work ethic. Football was a great thing for someone that's growing up and just kind of learning how to play a team sport, how to be a leader. So I feel like a lot of the skill sets have translated to, all the sports that I played. It's funny, I drafted Joe, who I didn't know at the time, but he was a college football player, and you kind of see that translate to the basketball court. Not only from like just like a physicality perspective, but I think he brings a lot of toughness and energy to our team. Like last week, I think he was a great spark plug for us. He came off the bench, and I think immediately from when he came in, like offensive rebounds, slashing, and ones, like he brings a totally different skill set to our team, which has been a big positive for the squad.
Yeah, one thing I really like about Joe and him playing football makes so much sense is I never played football, but one thing I remember about football, because my friends played it, they were like, yeah, like you sometimes like never really touch the ball, which is such a weird concept if you never played football. Like in basketball, you touch the ball, right? And so I think football players in particular get used to playing off ball and doing all of the little things away from the action to try to help their team win. And playing with Joe, it's like he never really demands the ball. He just kind of like does what the team needs to help the team win. And yeah, I never really said it, but I've definitely been noticing it. I'm like, wow, it must be like a football mentality, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, on a football field, the spotlight is definitely not always on you. It's 11 people. There's a lot of different things going on, different than maybe basketball, where it's kind of five-person sport. Everyone's kind of moving like interconnected. So yeah, no, you're completely right. Like I think Joe kind of plays differently every game, right? Like depending on what we need out of him and how the game's going and what our matchups are, that kind of like versatility part definitely plays a role. And I think, you didn't play football, but one of the reasons I drafted you was because I mean, I think you're the most versatile guy in the league. Like you can guard a point guard, you can guard a center. There'll be games where you hit 6 threes and drop 20 points. There'll be games where you drop 4 points, but you got 15 boards and you're getting assists. And I think it's a big thing in this league, especially this year with a lot of new people, a lot of new faces, a lot of different teams that are orchestrated different. I think the versatility aspect of it is okay. We're playing this team. How are we going to adapt? And what can we do matchup wise and whatnot to give us the best chance to win.
Appreciate you saying that. In the game where I only score 4 points, I'm probably missing the 6 threes. Should add that in there.
Hey, look at my shot chart from last week. So I don't even want to talk about it. Next question.
Um, one thing that's also really surprising to me about the football thing with you is you're always smiling. You have this like positivity, and I think a football player is like very, intense getting into the game. Like it's very physical and aggressive. Um, I wanted to ask you, like, did you have to work on that where you had to like calm yourself down, or were you always this positive, like when you played football growing in sports growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always kind of had this kind of mindset throughout my whole life. I think in football, I mean, people take different approaches to any sport, specifically football. I think it like almost got under people's skin, where maybe I wasn't like this like gruesome guy that's like screaming in your face, but like you make a good play and you just like smile the guy's face down, and they're like, I don't even know what to do with this guy. So that I mean that's kind of just like I don't ever want to get away from that type of person because I think that makes me a better player in whatever sport I'm playing. Like I said, I have a switch. I know we don't really see it as much in JP. Maybe we'll see it pop out a little bit in the playoffs, when we need some extra fire in the team. But yeah, to answer your question, I feel like that is just how I approach everything in life. So um, yeah, that's just me.
Very cool. Steve, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. So I guess did you have like any you know, teams growing up that you were watching in the NBA? Any any players or anything like that you kind of emulated your game after?
Yeah, so my going back to my dad, I grew up kind of all over the place with sports teams because I followed the teams that he made us follow. Um, so I did grow up, and I'm still an avid Lakers fan. Obviously, living in New York
Mm.
all life, I'm a secondary Knicks fan, but my heart's with the Lakers. So obviously, grew up a big Kobe fan. Wouldn't say I can't say I didn't try to emulate my game off him. I don't think I really play like Kobe. But the other parts of Kobe, obviously, like Mamba mentality, is something that I try to implement into my my game and ways to compete against other guys. My email growing up was always Little Nash 6. So I did grow up a big Steve Nash fan. I think his game is a little bit more like me. I think kind of post like high school and everything, I think I've put a little bit more emphasis on scoring. But the last few weeks when you can't score, I was just trying to get my guys involved. So I've been trying to focus on, divvying it out to the guys and getting everyone incorporated into the offense. So Nash was my guy. He was so good. But I mean, there's countless players. I could go home and just watch like a cruddy NBA game and just be amused by how good these guys are. What can I do to incorporate some of these things that they're doing on the court into my game? So it's always like kind of like a revolving door on how you can get better.
Yeah, I can definitely see the Nash comparison. And then Kobe's like just mentality, bro. It's just like you could apply that to not just sports, but just like anything you do, and that's just
Yeah,
you're gonna win, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
What about you guys? I'm always bad with player comps. People like ask me, "What do you think my player comp is?" And it's kind of hard, but it's good that you guys put that in the like prereq for the league, because we always kind of see that, especially for new guys. They're not always super accurate, but um, yeah, sometimes you get some people that are like spot on, and then there's other ones where like, okay, that's a little bit of a stretch, but what about you guys? Who do you guys emulate your game off?
I definitely see the Nash thing because that assist you had with Brian looked like a Steve Nash pass. Um, for myself, I'm like a mix. I mean, kind of like slow, sluggish, make passes,
Ah.
play big, you know. So people say like I look like Boris Diaw from the Spurs or like a Jokic type player, you know, kind of shoot a little bit and make some passes to the team, set up the team. But that's usually the player comp I'll get.
For me, growing up, I emulated my game after MJ. I used to be more of like a driver and like have a way more consistent like mid-range jump shot. Um, but I think player comp more recently, I think I play kind of more like Josh Hart. I think it's kind of like the perfect player comp. Like I go for offensive rebounds, I hustle. Sometimes I make some outside threes and really hurt the opponent. Sometimes I miss all my threes, kind of like Josh Hart. So I think that's a good player comp for me.
I like that. That's good. That's a good person to emulate your game off of.
Oh yeah.
That's a guy you want on your team. I guess that's why I drafted you.
Um, so shifting gears a little bit, I want to know the story behind you moving to JP. Um, like, did you immediately see the court and fall in love? Did you have to convince your, now wife a little bit? Like, was it easy? Like, tell us the story there.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. My wife and I, well, my fiance at the time, we lived on the Upper West Side, um, with state of the art, similar to like JP, basketball court, gym, the whole nine. And when we decided that we kind of wanted to move out of Manhattan, um, I would say maybe not on her list, but it was probably priority one, to have a basketball court. And it's funny, I played in like a pickup run at my old building, and one of the guys that plays was living in Long Island City. I had a conversation with him. He lived at JP, and he told me about it. And rightfully so. It's hard to move into JP because there's not a lot of availability because people stay and they move there and they don't want to leave. And he mentioned that him and his, I think, fiance at the time were moving out. They were going to move to Astoria. And I was like, this is my literally only opportunity. We looked at some other buildings in Long Island City, but this was like, I want this. And my wife, she puts up with it and she knows if I'm happy that we're happy. And it turns out that the person that was moving, it was perfect timing, we made it work, is John Zoo's boss at the NBA. So like it was like the full like interconnectionness,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
we didn't put together that we knew each other kind of, until after the fact.
It's
But that
hilarious.
just comes to like the community part of it, right? Like I probably would have never known. I probably would have never met you guys and John and all these guys. So moral of the story, priority one, basketball court, and it all worked out.
That's crazy. I didn't know the connection with John Shu's boss. That's a
Yeah,
crazy
that's why he's like a
coincidence.
little bit nicer to me because I know his boss.
Okay, so after you moved to JP, you come play some pickup, and I want you to think back, because you've been here for a while. Like, what was your first impressions of the pickup games at JP? And do you remember any player in particular making like a impression on you?
Yeah, so I moved in, I think like a Saturday morning, or actually it was like a Friday. So, which is usually a good day for JP pickup. We're moving, we're doing all this stuff. I'm like, I got to get out of this apartment. So I trickle down, I sign up for the club, and I go up there, and there's a bunch of people running. And natural basketball instincts, I'm like, I'm just gonna like feel it out. I'm gonna look. I'll take a few shots during in between games. Like I don't really need to play right now, but just get an idea of kind of what I'm playing with. And honestly, I think the first game I saw, Cindy had like six threes. She was cooking everyone. I don't remember specifically who else was there. I think thinking back, like Taylor and Sean and those guys were there. But I was like, who is this girl? And she was like absolutely dominating. And then kind of fast forward, I think that next Monday I showed up again, and I just so happened to be sitting, and Steve, being the friendly commissioner, just kind of came up to me. And I was like, I just moved in, and we had like a 10-minute conversation. He tells me about JP League. And then I think literally from there, played in a few pickup games, met everyone, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I remember
Steve, you
that.
remember that?
I do remember that. I see Schwartz just kind of like dribbling in the corner. I'm like, who is this guy? I've never seen this dude. And to me, it looked like he wanted to play. And I was like, yo, let's get next. And I think we started playing together. I'm like, oh, yo, he's really solid. I think it took like a week to like get him into some of these games and people to recognize his games. Like right now, if you see Schwartz on the court, he gets a lot of respect from a lot of the players. Everyone knows who he is because of his game, right? But I think when you don't know somebody and you don't see it until you play with them. So I think that was like the beginning with Schwartz, and I think we had like we were in a league, dynasty league, like season, maybe middle of the season or something, like on a Sunday. I'm like, guys, like this guy Josh, he's really solid. Like he's kind of like that missing piece we need on this team. Let's have him sub, like one of these because we had issues with sometimes getting enough players, and I don't remember at the time if we like who are I know Jone and Will were probably playing with us, but we're always like short on guards, and we always had like bigs. Like we had like five bigs at the time. It was like Gio, Andrew, Sean, me, Taylor, like on the team, and we kind of needed like just someone to help get the guard game, like distributing the ball, getting some shots. And we brought him in one day, and he was doing like everything, just getting bored. He's like, man, this guy's like athletic. Like this guy runs, he passes, he shoots. And from there, I think that's where it's like, oh, like we need Schwartz on the team. And then from there, like it was like you said, like the rest is history. Everyone got familiar with him, and that's where he got his respect, and obviously his game shows. And he's a great guy off the court too. So he became one of the boys.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite things, just being kind of like this undersized little white Jewish kid, is like people don't really expect or like you don't know, right? Basketball is kind of weird like that. And it's like one of my favorite things to like join a new community or go to a random court, and just play against like complete strangers. And I kind of tipped my hand a little bit because I think when I moved in, it was like a few weeks or like a month or two before the JP League started up. I kind of wish I like kind of downplayed the game, so it would have been a later draft pick to start the first season. But like I had already got to know Jone pretty well at the time, and I think he ended up picking at me in the second round, which we had a great season. But yeah, once you set the floor, it's like, all right, they know what they're getting out of me.
Yep.
Josh, I never told you this story, but I remember your first impression on me too. Um, so the way I play defense, like I like playing defense, but I don't want to go 100% all the time. And so like you're this new player, I haven't seen you on the court before, and so I kind of sagged off you a little bit, and then you shot the three, and you have a really nice aesthetic shooting form, and it just went in like so cleanly. So I was like, okay, this guy can shoot. So I have to like up my defensive intensity. Like I have to like play closer on him. And I think it was a close game. So when you got the ball the very next time, I guarded you more closely on the perimeter, and you went into, your classic like crossover, like get really low, and then you like did this like crossover step back and you shot it, and I contested it, and you made it again. And that really, really impressed me. I was like, wow, this guy's pretty good, pretty athletic, pretty fast. I'm always impressed when people shoot off the dribble and I contest and they make it really cleanly like that. Because I think it's hard to, shoot off the dribble and then have some guy contest you with all of their defensive effort. And so I remember that and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good.
I don't like when you defend me, so I appreciate you giving me a little slack there to start. I don't think that will ever happen again. So keep up the good defensive work.
Thanks. Um, so you guys talked about Joan. I wanted to ask you maybe a tougher question, because we never had you on the podcast until now. You're already into your third season, and you've had a lot of success. If if your definition of success is winning the finals, okay, maybe not in that way, but yeah, your very first season, you went to the finals. And not a lot of players can say that. The second season, you got to the semifinals, and you were a favorite to go to the finals, and you ended up just like losing by one. Um, so I don't know if you ever debrief with Steve in particular, but yeah, what do you remember about that finals game, going to the finals that first season with Steve and Joan?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting season because we started off, I think maybe 0-3,
Yeah.
or like 0-4. But we lost like our point differential that year was like after four losses, I think it was literally like 6 points. So the more and more we kind of played together, we kind of figured out how to win those close games. And I think we were one of those teams, which I think could happen in this current season as well, just with a lot of new faces, is like you want to be hitting your stride going into the playoffs. Like at the end of the day, I hated losing to Steve's team a week or two ago. But I think you kind of learn from games, and figure out kind of what to do differently, how to like play because we hadn't played in really that many close games this season. So like you kind of learn, and that was one of the things that we ran into I think last season is we ran the table every game in the regular season, and then all of a sudden we get in kind of like a dogfight with Sean's team, and we end up losing that because I think we weren't prepared to be in that type of situation. So I mean I think each team's different, and I think I try to take an approach of, what is most needed out of me for this team specifically, depending on who you're surrounded by, what the makeshift of this team, who you're playing against. So to answer your question, I mean, I think the first season just me being new to the league, I don't know if Luis was kind of new as well. I think we were just kind of like a bunch of new pieces, just trying to like figure out how to play basketball together. And I think we were up at halftime in the finals. Yeah. Still daunts me. It was like 2 days before my wedding. Almost canceled it. And we lost that game. But I gotta win a championship. That's my success meter. So, having good regular seasons and winning some playoff games ain't gonna cut it. So see if we'll make it different this year for Paw Patrol, Ethan. I promise that.
I won in my third season, so
Okay.
yeah, get ready. I'm down to get you one in your third season as well.
Sounds good.
Steve, what do you remember about that season playing with Schwartz or that finals game?
Oh man. The finals game, I think it was just maybe a matchup thing where I believe we played Cindy's team in the finals. They were
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had a lot of length um, with Stone, Chen Hao, John
Gia.
Chu,
Yeah.
Gio, right? Yeah. I think Gio got the MVP. That was also the season where they made a trade for Dennis and Dada joined.
Yeah. I think Dada had like 20 points that game.
He might have had like 20
Yeah.
points. So they were a very good team. And like Schwartz says, like in the regular season, we were, our record wasn't great, but every game was like, I don't know, within like a couple possessions. So the score differential was very, very close. So we knew, we had the potential to beat any team. Um, and our roster was pretty solid, I thought. I believe like the starting five was me, Schwartz, Jone, Luis, and Herschel. And then I think we had John that season. He just like barely played, but he kind of in the later part of the season, I think he was injured for the first part or like away for work. In the last part, he would do his thing. We had Kenny Wang and Francis who were like our shooters. Um, yeah, I mean the finals game, I don't remember too much. I think we had trouble with their size. I think that was like the ultimate like recap. They had Geo on the boards, John Shu hustling, Stone and Chen Hao are like long, lengthy wings who could kind of, you know, uh, spread the floor with their shooting or attack off the dribble. Cindy with their shooting. So they're a very well-rounded team. And we played to our strengths. Like we pushed the pace. Um, they were a little bit new playing with each other, so they didn't have all that figured out. But yeah, it was just one of those seasons. Like I think it could have gone either way in the championship, and Cindy's team definitely deserves the victory, but it was very close up into the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, that was a tough one for you guys. I just felt like they were just bigger and longer. You guys definitely had the talent to win that game. Like Schwartz said, you guys were up at halftime. And I I was just really impressed with you guys going to the finals and giving it your all and fighting, all the way. That's what I remember about the game. Don't want to make you guys, relive painful memories, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. Um, all right, cool. So why don't we move on to, we got some quick hitter questions that I prepared, just five, and then we'll go into maybe talking about this week's games that were on Wednesday, and then make some picks after that. For these quick hitter questions, Let's not spend too much time on it. It's like react quickly sort of format. So
Um,
yeah, I'll go first and then Steve, you can take the next one. So first question is when you're shooting at JP or playing in a JP League game, you prefer the slightly tilted up higher rim or the lower rim?
I like the lower rim personally, much more. But if you look at my stats, it's like I feel like it's not like a difference, but it is a little bit of a difference. It helps if you warm up on the right side. So I always prefer that side.
Next question. It's an interesting one. Korean food or Italian
Ooh, if my wife's watching this, she'll kill me. So I'll go Italian food.
food?
All right. All right. So excluding yourself, so you can't pick yourself. Which of the five captains this season is winning in a three-point contest?
Ooh, is Ryan's healthy in this conversation?
Yeah, Ryan's
Yeah.
healthy.
Ryan's healthy. Hmm. I might go Ryan. I don't know. He seems
Ooh.
like every time I guard him, I struggle with him, and he always hits threes on me. So um, I'll go with my boy Ryan. He'll up quick, buddy.
All right.
Uh, who is who is underrated at JP, would you say? Who's definitely like underappreciated?
Ooh, I mean, a few people. I mean, this season, obviously Jared, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, and Ethan and I, when we were drafting, he told me a few times we were like, we should get Jared, and he kind of held off too long, obviously, and he ended up getting picked right before me. But I mean, not even just from stats. Like I played against him for the first time last week, and he's very good offensively. He's physical. He gets to the rim. I don't think he took a ton of threes against us, but he has that capability as well. Um, so I've been super impressed. And I didn't play with him previously, like maybe a few times pick up. But I've been super, super impressed with his game so far.
All right, cool. All right. And last one. So for the next season, if you could choose a first-time captain and nominate them, who do you want to see as a first-time captain?
Ooh, you guys might have to correct me because I don't know exactly who has already been captains. Let me see. Hmm. This is tough. Ethan, you were a captain already, or no?
Yeah, I was a captain already.
Okay. Um, what about Kenny?
What Kenny is?
Kenny's been a captain
Yeah, he's been a
already.
captain as
Captain.
well. Yeah.
Um, who else is like a staple of the community that just is never a captain? I'm trying to think of the other teams.
Josh Liu hasn't been a captain.
Okay, Josh Liu.
Um,
Um,
who else keeps avoiding being captain, Steve?
Trying to think here.
I'm trying to think of kind of the staples, like Schwartz said. Um,
Uh, Andy K,
yeah.
um, James Mang, I don't think has been a captain. Zen Yi hasn't been a captain. Uh, see, Brian on your team, Big Brian, Brian M has not been a captain.
oh, that's a good pick. Brian would be a really good captain. Like
All right.
Yeah, I think
super
so.
emotionally and vocally into it. I mean, Brian's my guy. He was like him and Ethan when I got my draft pick, they were the top on my board. I love to play with Brian. He's a great guy to have on the court. He does a lot of different things and super unselfish. Um, all right, Brian, you're nominated.
Nice. Real quick, you know what I love about Brian? I'm always kind of dishing out feedback and call it criticism, constructive criticism on the court, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Not a lot of people dish it back to me. And but Brian will. Brian, I was like,
Yeah.
you gotta box out. Like if you give up one offensive rebound, he's shouting for the sideline, you gotta box out, guys. come on, you gotta box out. We can't play like that. And I love it. I mean, I want the coaching too. Like I want people to, hold me accountable. So yeah, if I ever make a mistake, I want people in my ear. I feel like that's what you need to improve. So I appreciate that about Brian.
Yeah, he kind of like he has a switch as well, right? Like, because like off the court, he's like nice guy, like, and then he kind of gets out there and he's got this like little edge, and he gets like super
Mhm.
vocal, which you wouldn't necessarily expect from him. But that's why I love him. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Shall we move on to talking about this week's games? Steve, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So let's go recap this past week's games. Our first game was Will Steal Your Lunch Money was I think the home team. No, they're the away team. And then Mo Money, Mo Buckets. Um, Mo Money, Mo Buckets got the win 72-58. Really turned it up in the second half. Schwartz, you had a chance to watch or not? Not really.
I caught the very tail end of it, so not a ton of input, but obviously I've played both of you guys, and I think Mo's team obviously had a little bit of a rough start to the season, just like in terms of wins. Like I don't think they were playing terribly, but I think they're an underrated team. Um, I think they just kind of are figuring out how to play with each other. But you know, we played them the first game and we won by what, 11? But I mean, I think I shot super efficiently. Like a couple buckets don't go that way, and that's a much closer game. We might even lose. So I was impressed with them, and they didn't have Luis against you guys. I know you guys were missing some people as well, but I think they'll be a tough team in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Uh, Steve, I think I could recap this game pretty succinctly, and then we'll bring it back to you to hear, your take because you played in the game. I just felt like it was really you guys getting fatigued in the second half. So when I was doing the stats and I'm looking at the game report where it kind of like shows you how the score is like, competing like team versus team. First half was like totally even. And then in the second half, those two lines like just like, go farther and farther apart. And also just watching on film, I just felt like, yeah, you guys having five, it's tough. Not having any subs and they're playing super hard because they want to win. And I just felt like that was the key factor, really. If you guys just had a few more bodies, I feel like, you could have easily gotten the win. That was my take.
No, I think that was the story of at least our struggles. We use timeouts to just really catch a breath, and
Yeah.
we had, only five. They only had six. They're definitely a way better conditioned team than we are. They had Steph Dang back, who, runs the floor very well. If you leave him open, he's going to hit that three. He makes those cuts. He really makes you work on the defensive end. So you're getting tired chasing him around. Mo does a really good job. So they have like Mo, Brandon, Jeff, Andrew Cho, and Anthony, all guys who love to run, pass, cut, shoot. So it's very, very active. Us, myself, I'm not in the best shape. Can't really keep up with some of these guys. We had trouble just kind of contesting open shots, walking back on the offensive end. We bring the ball up, 14 seconds left to shoot, kind of settle for like an ISO bucket. But yeah, we just didn't really have it going with, based on our fatigue in the second half. First half, I also thought we didn't play that well. And Mo had a hell of a game, 30 points. Brandon was finishing strong. Jeff was doing his thing, hitting threes. They hit some key shots, and without a Luis, so imagine Luis on that team. That pushing that pace is even more. That lead they had could have been even more. Um, but hopefully next time, we'll have more bodies available. We'll be in better shape. We know what their strengths are, and they know our weaknesses. So if we're able to kind of cut some of those out, then yeah, hopefully we'll be ready for them in the next one.
Cool. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Mo. Mo had a 30-point game, very efficient shooting. He finally popped off. And also John Shu. John Shu had an amazing stat line. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I think it was 12 points, 16 rebounds, 7 or 8 assists, and only like 2 turnovers. I think he also had 2 steals, 1 block. Amazing game from him.
John played a hell of a game. He does everything we like need for, someone to do. He does it all. He dishes it out. I mean, honestly, he found so many open guys. He probably could have had a triple double
Hmm.
that game. He was finding the team, playing defense, hustling. You know, thank God we have John. He really keeping us in the game. And Mo, it was like a silent killer. I didn't even realize in the game, like you're just like kind of focused on, you know, the like all the threats were scoring, but I didn't even realize Mo was scoring that much. And yeah, he really stepped it up this week. I know in the previous week he hasn't like found his shot, but this week, 30 point shooting, 62% is wild. So really, really great performance from him.
All right. Schwartz, were you able to catch the 7:30 game? I'm not sure when you arrived at JP.
I watched a little bit of it, but I don't want to give crazy input into it because I wasn't fully vested. I should have been knowing I was coming on the podcast. So next time I'll show up and watch all the games.
It's all good. It's all good. So let's move on to the 7:30 game. Uh, Steve, what's your take on the 7:30 game? What do you remember?
7:30. I just feel like that team needs like some sort of playmaker, that's, Josh Liu had a good game, 20 points, but everyone else was under 10. They had Andrew Rivera subbing in. Sen is back. Evan, they had Arpon subbing as well. Manny and France. I feel like out of those guys, like, you know, there's a lot of guards there, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're the best playmakers, quickest decision makers, and they turn the ball over too much. So, like, on these passes, you mentioned this in our last podcast that unfortunately got deleted, but Sen had 9 turnovers the week before. I'm not trying to call him out, but he had 5 this week, which is an improvement, but that's still, a problem. Then they tried to shift the playmaking duties to Josh Liu to kind of help distribute to his team. He also had 6 turnovers, right? So then you got guys like Manny who played in the rec division. He was the primary ball handler for his team in rec last season, and he had a couple of assists, but in rec division, but in the open, he's struggling to really find his shot. 0 for 4, 5 turnovers. So it's really like, man, I don't know if these passes are great decisions, like quick enough. The other team, their other team members not expecting it. So they really need a guy who could really control and dictate the offense a little bit better. These turnovers are turning into fast break opportunities for the opponents, making it easier for them on defense or ramping them up on defense at least. Like, if you're putting on the pressure on, they're playing harder. So, and then you got guys like France has not been shooting well. He's a veteran in this league. I think they just don't find each other off like a screen. They don't set up for each other. So I think that's part of the reason why they're just getting turnovers. They're forcing these plays to happen, but they may not be the best opportunity at in the game. So yeah, that's just my take, at least with Taylor's team. Ryan's team's playing amazing. I think they're playing very well. They're only I say this every week, they're trending upwards. We played them week 1, and they're a completely different team than week 1. So they're definitely a top team in the league.
Yeah. Um, so a couple things. Ryan's team got better because they got James Mung, who's a fantastic player. I think it's so funny. Their team name is Saving Captain Ryan, and like, like, James Mung, like came and like it could have been a disaster, with them not having Ryan, and it's just like the team name just kind of like manifested itself into what's actually happening season wise. But going to Ed's team, uh, like I've been thinking about like why they're 0 and 4 with their roster because their roster is really strong in my opinion. I feel like they should definitely have at least one win. Um, yeah, I gotta agree with you. It's the turnovers. The turnovers are killing them. Um, like I look at the stats, and team wise, in the league, you have, I think it's 66 possessions on average per game. And last game, they had 22 turnovers. I mean, think about that. So out of 66, you're losing a third of your possessions where you're not attempting a shot. And some of those can turn into fast break opportunities for the other team. So now you only have 44 possessions, let's say. And so if you get 1 point per possession, you're still only going to end up with 44 points, right? If you, and 1 point possession is like pretty hard to do. If you go up to 1.5, which is very, very hard to do, right? 1.5 points per possession is like making a three every single time on a possession, right? Then you're going to land at 66, which is, I keep saying, like if you land it in the middle of the 60s, you're probably going to win in JP League. So I feel like they need to have a team meeting and like talk about these turnovers. Like uh 22 is like unacceptable. Basically, you're losing the game off of the turnovers themselves. It doesn't matter what you do on defense, it doesn't matter what you do shooting wise. Like you can't win with 22 turnovers. Like they have to have a team-wide meeting and say like we need to take care of the ball. It's a priority for us. Like we can't be so loosey-goosey with the passes and the ball handling. Um and talking about France, I don't want to give him too much tough love, but he has been not shooting well, and I think it's more about the shot selection. So if you look at his film and shot selection, he does a lot of, you know, going one on one against the defender and trying to force a shot where he kind of like picks up his dribble and like puts his body into the defender, kind of sometimes like what Jone does when he drives to try to like bait for the foul. So a lot of those are going to be very tough to make. Or he does a one dribble pull up and he sort of like fades sometimes because the defender is there. The few times that he has made it, it's been set up for him. And I think he can shoot the ball and score for them if somebody sets up for him and he takes that shot in the flow of the game in a natural way. But if he comes in and he gets the ball and he's like, okay, I think I'm just gonna like it's my turn now. Like we kind of have been seeing the results from that. And again, like if you're turning the ball over 22 times and you have 44 possessions, and then you have France taking about 10 or 11 shots. I think he took like 12 shots or something, and he's shooting 1 for 12 or 2 for 12. You basically can't win as a team. So something definitely needs to change. I'm saying all this because I feel like they should be performing better. I want to try to help them. I think France and Ed need to take over the ball handling duties and kind of set up for Kenny and Josh Liu, right? They shouldn't be like Kenny can also bring up the ball. The only thing with Kenny is that sometimes he goes into a zero pass shot attempt when he brings up the ball, and that can kind of really kill their offense when he's not hitting, right? If he's hitting, it's like, everyone's like pumped up and amped up. But when he's not hitting, it's like you didn't even like pass the ball. Now we have to go back on defense. It could definitely be like a vibe killer. So if I were coaching the team, I would stress turnovers. I would tell France like be more of like a set up your teammates and like shoot the ball in the flow of the offense. When Ed comes back, I think he has the basketball IQ to also be kind of like let's set up our scorers. And then they have the talent to win. So that's what I thought.
All points, I agree. I think Ed definitely needs to be that playmaker. Unfortunately, he's been, um, you know, he has to have that dude, I feel like, in this position because, even though he's been losing weight, getting better shape, scoring better, I think he needs to do more of what the team needs to just kind of enable some of these guys and get into the flow of the offense. So, yeah, I definitely agree with your take on that.
All right. Josh, for the small bits and pieces you caught for the 7:30 game, you have anything to add, or should we move on to the 8:30 game?
Yeah, you guys can move. I think you guys hit it pretty square on. It's kind of been the same theme over the last few weeks, at least for that team. Just kind of lack of ball handling ability, turnovers, sloppy, and they've also had like a bunch of different lineups, which doesn't help. So I think they just need some consistency out of their guys showing up and figuring out how to kind of minimize those mistakes because they played well defensively. I think they only let up like 50 points, so you just got to
Mhm.
give yourself a chance to win.
Yep. All right, cool. So to bring you back in, Josh, let's talk about the 8:30 game. You played in the game. You and I were there playing against Jones' short-handed team. Um, so what do you remember about that game? Yeah, what was your impression?
Yeah, I mean, I always try to at the best. I always want to play against the best people. I always like to play against like full rosters. So obviously they were missing, I think, their first two picks, which gave them a huge disadvantage. Um, I thought I thought we came out actually like I thought we were getting good shots. Shots just weren't falling. I think I mentioned it earlier. Joe kind of came in, I think, was kind of like a spark plug for us. And obviously I didn't shoot well. So I was in one of those positions where I was like, I got to get some of these people open. I think I did a pretty good job. I think Brian was due to kind of have like a pop off game shooting. I can't remember. I think he had like 18 points, which was good for his confidence. Always good to have Big Brian back, which was solid. He does a lot of different things that probably don't even show up in the stat line. Um, but I thought we played well. I think we talked about this, Ethan. I feel like we have different guys show up on different nights, which is the best thing you could have for a team. Unfortunately, I can't shoot 80% every game. So it helps when you have the support of the other guys and different guys showing up. But um, I think we've gotten better over the season. I think we lead the league in points against, right? Like I think we're only letting up about 50 points a game, which is great. I think we by far lead in assists, which means we're moving the ball around. So I think we're a little underrated defensively. I know Ethan and I are tough on our guys, but we're putting ourselves in position to win. And I think we get great shots offensively. Sometimes they are falling more times than not, but I'm excited about it. I know we'll get into it. I'm excited for our next week's matchup.
Yeah, real quick, and then I'll bring you in, Steve. The thing that Schwartz and I talked about was the first two games of the season, Schwartz and I were shooting like combined like 70% from three. Right. And so that's not sustainable. And what we were talking about was like, well, what's going to happen when we don't shoot 70% from three? And what are our teammates going to do? Are they going to step up and rise to the occasion? And they definitely showed, I think, this past week that they can deliver, they can show up and rise to the occasion. And we have a really, really good squad. So I'm fine missing all my shots. I think I shot like 27, 28% from the field. And if that happens and we win by close to 20 every week, all I want to do is win. So I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, I completely agree. Steve, what do you think of our game?
Yeah, no, I think what you guys are spot on, right? So, maybe both of you guys didn't have your best shooting performance, but the rest of your team was able to kind of step up, elevate their game. Brian Wong had an amazing shooting night. You guys found him in the right spots. He was cutting. I thought Josh Liu has been doing good with the mid range. His mid range has been pretty nice. I feel like he wasn't respected on the defensive end, so he was just kind of doing like these one dribble pull up in mids, and he started getting hot, so getting a little bit more confident. You guys had Kai for the first game. He hit like his first three when he just kind of checked in, and I think he had like a cut to the basket. It might have been an and one. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, he's showing some energy out there. Joe, hustling, doing all the dirty work, like you guys said. He He's a spark plug, very explosive, crash boards. Like he'll be grabbing that. He gets up there. So like I'm seeing like a little Kevin Diaz in him. So like he's just like maybe he's like I don't know how he's like 5'10" maybe, but he like looks like he just elevates, grabs that. He'll grab the another possession for you guys, reset it for you. Scott doing his thing. But yeah, no, I was really impressed with your team. I felt like the other team, Kevin Diaz, yeah, they just like couldn't get things going smoothly in the first half. I thought in the second half they played a lot better. Like I think Jone started hitting some shots, like he was off in the first half. He started getting hot. Um, Kev was doing a little bit of everything, but I really start to see him shine more in the second half as well. He had some big threes. I think I need to see more from Min. Like I think Min needs to step it up both on offense and defense. He hasn't been hitting his shots. And I feel like on defense, not to really call him out or anything, but like, he'll be guarding like a guy who dropped like 15, 20 points a game. So I think both ends, he needs to just step it up. Brian Lee didn't really find his shot. You know, he wasn't like shooting like crazy like the game before. But he's new this season. He was looking to be more of a distributor. Sam was doing all the little things. He was getting. I remember he had a big block, and he was getting boards, just fighting in the paint. Like his team was finally like kind of getting some entry passes inside to him when he was setting up in position. That looked like a good opportunity to kind of get the ball in there, draw two defenders, kick it out. But yeah, I just feel like they had a hard time really, finding finding a good shot, good opportunity. Obviously, not having Leo and Jeff is huge, so those guys can create on their own. Um, yeah, I think that was like my take from what I saw during the game.
I was
Um,
pretty impressed with Brian Lee, by the way, guarding him.
mm,
Super like quick. I felt he had like really good basketball instincts. He was a good defender on me. Um, I think his draft stock would go up. Obviously, he's new to the league. But if they can incorporate him more into their offense and kind of do what he does well, I think he'd be a really good player in the league.
Agreed.
Speaking of Brian, I thought one thing about him that he can do to really help the team. So in that game, yeah, he started driving against Schwartz and finishing off the drive. And sometimes I would be in the help defense position. And I was guarding Kevin Diaz, and I don't want to leave Kevin Diaz open for three because he's a consistent three-point shooter. So I was kind of playing that middle ground. And when he started hitting that drive, I actually had to come all the way over to position myself, in the driving lane. And then he would kick it out to Kevin Diaz, and that's how Kevin Diaz got some of his threes. Um, I think that he should he should do that every game. Like he should keep attacking. He's gonna finish those drives and then force the help defense to come harder, and then he can just kick it out to his shooters. They got this guy Frank Wu. He seems to be a pretty good outside shooter. Um, Min can actually hit him too, and then they could set up Joan and Kevin. Um, and if he can't go all the way, he should just like dribble baseline and like just like go all the way through, keep his dribble alive. Um, and yeah, I like the way that he plays. But if he can be just a little bit more aggressive and assertive, I think he could contribute even more to the team. That's what I'm seeing on film.
All right, wraps up our recap from last week. Um, should we move forward with who we got for this upcoming Wednesday?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, guys. So the first matchup, 6:30 is Mo Money, Mo Buckets versus Kevin Diaz. Should be a good game. What do you guys got?
Is Jeff back?
Let's just assume like they're all at full
Full
strength.
roster.
Yeah.
I don't
Um,
think so. Jeff, I think has a confirmed torn MCL.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so I think he's out for the season.
Oh
I
wow.
think Leo will be back. Yeah, get better soon, Jeff. Really sorry to hear the news. But I think he's out for the season, so they'll probably uh maybe get a sub, which would definitely help. We don't know who that sub is. There hasn't been anyone proposed yet, but I think they'll have Leo back. So why don't we go with that assumption?
Okay. I think if they were at full force, I think this would be a pretty competitive game because Mo's roster is obviously not built to play against bigger teams, although they played well against Steve's team. But I think Leo, if they were able, Jones' team was able to kind of expose that, I think it would be a competitive game. But I still think Mo's team is the better overall team, and that's where my money's at.
If I'm going next, yeah, it really depends who they get as a sub for Jeff. But if he's not there and they just have Leo, yeah, I think most team is also on the come up, and they've been playing really well recently. Um, they didn't have Louise this week, and they played really well. They showed what they're capable of. Now they have Stefan Deng back, so I like them this week versus Jones' team.
Yeah, I think I've definitely after playing most team this past week, they really impressed me. Um and I think they're going to continue to ride that momentum forward this season. I think they're building some confidence. It's a big win because we were the only undefeated team at the time. And after that win, I think that confidence is going to help them to really like step it up for the next game. So I'm going with most team as well.
Um, the next game, 7:30, we got our team Paw Patrol versus Saving Captain Ryan. Obviously, Josh and I are not going to pick against our own team, so we really got to give it back to Steve here. Steve, what do you think about this game?
This is gonna be a great matchup. I'm really excited to see this game. Saving Captain Ryan, like I've been saying, is just kind of like on that upwards trend. Paw Patrol is what the top team in the league. You guys have a very cohesive unit. Very play well together. If and assuming you guys have everybody, even if both teams have everybody, I would have to say I have Paw Patrol as the favorite. And I think that has to do with just your ability to just play with each other. It really shows. I think saving Captain Ryan's team, like the starting five, has some pretty good cohesion, builds some chemistry. But I think their bench needs to kind of figure out their role. I think Jerry just kind of comes in, gives some energy, plays physical. But I feel like he hasn't found his shot or really, his team doesn't really set up for him. Louis has been playing well. If they have chances of winning, he really needs to get hot. Uh, to really spread the floor and allow their bigs or their wings to kind of drive like Zheng Yi and Zhang Shi. They'll have to have really big performances. So I think if Louis gets hot, if the possibility of them winning, Louis needs to hit his threes. Zheng Yi needs to be able to finish inside, and Zhang Shi needs to really dominate. But I haven't seen him really. He's been playing well. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like he could be playing a lot better, and his ceiling is very high as a 6'4", big man who's got good footwork and a nice mid-range shot. If he really dominates down there, he could really open up for his team. But like I said, he's been playing well, but he has definitely a bigger ceiling and a lot to prove. But overall favorites,
Yeah,
Paw Patrol. Sorry. Yep.
I think Josh and I agree. We're gonna pick our team going into the 7:30 game, so nothing else to really add there. Um, and then finally in the 8:30 game, we got Taylor Swifties playing "We'll Steal Your Money." Steve is on that team, so obviously he's gonna pick his own team. So let's have Josh make his pick first. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's just a lot of question marks about Taylor Swifties. So I mean, I think Steve's team will give them a lot of trouble if they can't clean up like their ball handling and ability to like not turn the ball over. Um, but I mean, if they work to kind of get Josh implemented, if Kenny's there, I think they're better than what they've been playing. But I think a lot of adjustments need to be made, and I think JC's team a little frustrated after their loss. They'll probably try to kick it back into gear and get a W.
Yeah, if I'm picking favorites, I gotta go with JC's team. I really like their roster. I keep saying it on the podcast. I think they're power ranking number one. I don't know who they're gonna have this week if Zay's gonna be back. I think he's a key part of that team. Um, he's just really tough to deal with. When he gets it in the deep post position, it's just very hard to stop him. It's like an automatic 2 points. He makes his impact on the offensive rebounding. Um, I feel like uh, if Taylor Swifties is going to upset them, they got to use some of the elements of like the blueprint that we saw from this week's games. Maybe they got to fast break more. They got to tire some of these guys out, but they have their own issues. They really have to clean up the turnovers. I think if they have 16 turnovers, I don't think they can win. They need to have like a 12 turnover week or like 10. They need to keep it low because they're already the underdog. So they got to play a clean game, have more possessions. Um, and yeah, if they can do that, I think they have a chance to have the upset. But yeah, I got to go with JC's team this week.
Zay's definitely a key piece to our roster. He's really there's no like answer to him when he's in the post. Like he'll either just like kind of he's always a big threat on the rebounds, like on the glass, right? So just having him there, like it's automatic like 10 rebounds for us. And it's, offensively, he does his thing. Like he's a great screener. He creates a lot of space for like whoever's he's setting up for. He has the ability to finish. His shooting has improved. I wouldn't call him, he's definitely not a shooter at all, but that's probably his weakness, but it's definitely has improved. His free throw percentage has improved. So, I mean, his game has definitely gotten better. Um, so having him back for this week is definitely going to be huge. It looks like we're going to have at least six for this week. So at least we won't have five.
Wait, Bobby's also going to be out. Is he injured or something?
So Bobby's injured. We're waiting to hear back from a like an MRI scan and everything. He has like knee issues ever since that game he went down. So that's been unfortunate because Bobby is also a key player to just kind of both ends. He does his job very well. He does a little bit of everything. Swiss Army knife. Um, Spreads the floor for us. Plays his role extremely well. So we really miss him, and we haven't had a chance to play with Curry. I think he was our third or fourth round pick, but he's been out since the beginning. No timetable like when he's coming back. So yeah, we've just been struggling with injuries, and hoping that we can at least have five or at least six guys for our next game. But I think fully healthy, like we could be a very strong team. Just hoping everyone stays healthy. So
Yeah, got to second that. Too many injuries this season. This is the most injury plagued season that we've
yeah,
had. I don't know what's going on.
Old age.
old age, definitely part of it. It's sad though, because like it just doesn't feel like the same with like some of these guys who are out, and draft picks kind of mess up like the whole team dynamic a little bit. So you kind of have to deal with what you have for now, and you hate seeing your friend getting injured. And they're out of the game. Pickup's not the same anymore. No one can play because they're all injured. So it's like, yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah, stay healthy, everybody.
I think
All right.
that wraps up, right? That wraps it up.
Yeah. Great episode, guys.
Thanks for having me
Thank
on,
you, Josh.
guys.
Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it. I like the new format.
All right, we'll see how many views it gets, and then if people give us some good feedback, maybe we'll continue doing this next week. So let's see.
All right.
All right. Successful episode. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks Josh again for coming on. And yeah, we'll see you guys on Wednesday.
All
Later,
right,
guys.
fellas. Thank you guys. I'm gonna pause my
Thanks.
recording.